Hello Reds and welcome to Top of the Cop. Now, in today's video I've gone for 5 players that I think Jurgen Klopp has turned into superstars. Now, I understand he's turned a lot more than 5 players into superstars to a certain extent, depending on your preference. I could have gone with 10 or I could have gone with 11 players and just listed the whole team, but I wanted to create a little bit of a debate and pick my personal top 5. Now, I understand your 5 may be different than mine. If it is, leave them down in the comments below, explain why yours is better than mine, or basically let's just have a debate on the 5. I've left it at 5 for that particular reason, or even comment down below your 5 before you watch the rest of this video and see how close we come. But yeah, let's get into it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, subscribe, hit that like button to help this video get up there in the YouTube algorithm. And with that being said, let's get into it, Reds. Now, number 1 on my list, I think out of the 5 players that I've picked, he's probably the one that's gone from just an average player to a superstar. Like, the gap in between his quality. Like, let's look at it from a FIFA point of view. 5 years ago, he'd probably be a silver, a bronze card maybe. And now he's probably one of the best in his field, and that is Andrew Robertson. Sorry about the FIFA reference there. That's the only way I could kind of sum up what I was trying to say. He's basically gone from a relegated Hull team into a Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp, making finals, and he's become one of the best left backs in Europe. In my opinion, probably the best left back, complete full back anyway, when you talk about defending, assists, work rate and all the above. And over the 5 seasons that he's been at Anfield, he's made 37 assists in total. And when we look at players and when we look at players who create the most and get the most assists every season in the Premier League, they're usually hitting around 14 or 15 on average, but they're also strikers, midfielders, wingers who create. So the fact that he's popped up at 37 over 5 seasons as a left back is absolutely phenomenal. There's no other left back in world football doing that. Not that I know, obviously, the ins and outs of world football, but there's definitely not a left back in the world that's obviously producing that amount of assists. And as I say, we got him from a relegated Hull. A lot of people didn't understand the transfer. Now, when we signed him, I remember it was Hull got relegated, and he was one player that I used to look at and think, I'd love Liverpool to sign him. I could see his ceiling, I could see his potential, I could see that he could be that good old-fashioned British, fullback. And we've had affinity with a few British-born players, Souness, Dalglish, players of that calibre. So I could see that potential with Robertson. And I remember sitting there, first game of the season, 2017-2018, I think we played Crystal Palace, and he played, and he was unbelievable. Well, I thought he was unbelievable. The people who were with me in the pub, the lads, they were like, oh no, he was alright, he's not going to be in the team. And to be fair, Moreno got back in for a few seasons, for a few months, and that was down to Klopp's bedding in process, which was pretty new at the time. But there was something in me that I said to the lads, and I said, he's going to be our left back for years to come. They all laughed at me, and I've never been so confident in a player pulling on a red shirt and being successful. And Andrew Robertson had to make this list alone for the fact we bought him from a relegated team. His history before he even joined Hull, he was playing in the lowest leagues in Scotland, and he's just gone from zero to hero over his short stay at Liverpool over the 5 years. And I think he's going to go on to be the best left back in the league for the next few seasons. So for me, Andrew Robertson had to be in this list, and I'm pretty sure Robbo will be in many people's top 5. So let me know down in the comments if you agree with that. But yeah, Andrew Robertson is my number 1. Now, number 2 on the list, I can't mention Andrew Robertson and not mention his partner in crime on the other side of the wing, and that's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, like Robbo, unlike Robbo, should I say, Robbo came from a relegated Hull team, but Trent came from the academy. He's probably the best prospect that's come out of the academy since Steven Gerrard, and that's quite a long time when you think about things. And he's come into a Liverpool team, he's been thrown in the right back position, and he's not had anyone to challenge him for the right back position really since he's come in. And that's a lot of pressure on a young kid's shoulders. if Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't perform well, Liverpool don't, to a certain extent. You know, he's a big cog at such a young age, and you know, the assists and that speak for themselves. He broke a record in 2018-2019 for assists in the Premier League for a fullback, and the season after he went and broke his own record. Now, that is just unheard of, especially at his age. When you think about he was 18, 19 in those years, that is ridiculous. You know, it's just not. Fullbacks now at the top of the game at your Real Madrid, your PSGs, your Juventuses, your Barças, your Bayern Munichs, they're not producing numbers that he does, and they're in their latter 20s, you know what I mean? Trent's 22 years old. He made the World 11 last season, and 45 assists in 6 seasons. Although his first season he only played a few games, so his first 5 proper seasons he's totaled up 45 assists, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. And you know, there's a myth going around that Trent can't defend. He can defend. You know, the fullback position has grown over the last few decades. You know, I understand in the 90s it might have all been about defending, but look at Robbo and Trent's assists. They've been on stage now for the last 3 or 4 seasons, producing these amounts of assists week in, week out, and it's evolved the modern day fullback's whole approach. And Trent can defend, but he's told to play higher up the pitch, for one, to create land. So is Robbo, and he's got the players like Gomez, Van Dijk that are fast. Hendo, Fabinho have all got engines to fill in behind him, to let him push up. So yeah, you may get caught out a few times when the teams are stretched against better teams, and every player makes a few mistakes. There's nothing unusual about Trent's defending that makes him, I think because his attacking ability is so good, the rest of the world think that his defending should be up there. He is a better attacker than he is defender, but he's not bad at defending. And when you take into consideration, I mentioned this on a podcast a few weeks ago, Ashley Cole is probably the best left back that England have produced in the last few decades. It wasn't until the ages of 25 and 26 people started saying he could defend. In his early 20s, they were all saying Ashley can't defend, he's not the greatest defender, blah blah, and that was when defending was important. Trent Alexander-Arnold was 22 years old. He made the World 11 last season. He's made the most assists for any fullback in any one season. In fact, 2 seasons. He broke his own record, as I said before. Now, there's players who are classed as good young players, wonder kids, elite players, and for me, Trent's an elite player already at the age of 22. I understand people, especially who aren't Liverpool fans, you know, and England, for instance, winds me up so much. The way that there was talk that Trent wouldn't even make the team for the Euros. They were going with Reece James, good young player. I actually like him. I think he's great. I think he's a great right back. Kyle Walker, a lot older, a lot more experienced, especially defensively. Nothing on Trent going forward though, and the whole debate that Trent wasn't as good as them two, that was just riled up from rival fans and people that don't understand football, in all honesty, in my opinion. Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best right back in world football at the age of 22. There's nothing you can suggest stats wise or anything that will make me think otherwise. And when you think about successful teams over the years, their fullbacks weren't the greatest at defending, because it's all about, you know, playing offensive football. And I think your fullbacks being better at attacking is important if your team's successful. And Trent Alexander-Arnold is the pinnacle of a fullback, modern day fullback, in my opinion. His stats speak for himself. And of course, you know, he came from an academy. He's come straight through into the first team. So that's why I think since Jurgen Klopp's been in charge, he's gone from a normal academy player into the best right back in the world. So Trent had to make my top 5. If you agree, let me know in the comments down below. Now, number 3 is probably a curveball. It might not be in everyone's top 5. You might think some of the players that I leave out deserve to be in the top 5 before him, but I've actually gone for Fabinho. Now, when we signed him in 2018, there was a lot of question marks. You know, Monaco had gone on a bit of a decline. He was never talked about at Monaco as one of their, you know, stars. They had the likes of James Rodriguez, even João Moutinho a nod for one of the better players, and you likes of Falcao and things. And he went under the radar. Everyone thought he was an okay midfielder. He'd never really cracked into the Brazilian national team and nothing like that. And we signed him for 44 million, I think it was. And we'd signed Keita at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong, I was made up with the transfer. I thought it was a good step to solidify our midfield. At the time, it was pretty weak, but there was still question marks on this ceiling, and obviously whether he'd be a superstar at Liverpool. And when he came in, I must admit, when in 2018, I think Liverpool started to make a lot of training, pre-season training videos on YouTube. And when I was watching them, he looked miles off the pace, in all fairness. And it was Naby Keita, the next Iniesta, that looked absolutely brilliant. And we all know, obviously, his injury concerns since then. And yeah, Fabinho didn't start at the beginning of the season that he's joined, but then he came into the team, he got embedded. And over that next 8 to 12 months, he just solidified. He was like the first name on the team sheet when it came to the three in midfield. It was like Fabinho and who else? Do you know what I mean? And I think, considering not everyone was sold on him when he first came, his stats, I can't, with Trent and Robbo, their stats were, their assists and things. He's not a creative midfielder. He's there, the dog, the one just to mop up in front of the back four and create with the rest, and push on. And he helps the likes of Henderson and Thiago now. Those type of players, gives them a bit of freedom to go forward and support the top three, because they're so confident between him, Van Dijk and Alisson that they've got it all sorted at the back. I understand they come back as part of their role, but the leash is off on those midfielders because they've got that midfielder, and I couldn't leave him out of this top five. I understand some people may suggest some of the players that I'm going to mention at the end, honourable mentions, may have got there before him, but for me, Fabinho is number 3. Now, number 4 on my list, although he's one of our biggest superstars, players will argue with me that he was already a superstar before he came to Liverpool. But I'm going to explain for the next few minutes on how I think he's vastly been improved since he joined, and obviously has played under Klopp. And number 4 for me is Virgil van Dijk. Now, he had to be a superstar before we signed him. We signed him for £75 million. And I understand it's because it was from a Premier League team, so the fee was obviously hyped up. But, every man and his dog that wasn't a Liverpool fan, your United fans, your City fans, they were laughing that we'd spend £75 million on a centre-back. And I don't know if they were laughing, hoping and praying that he wasn't going to be good. But from every Liverpool player's point of view, we just knew he was the missing cog, along with Alisson. And he joined a team that was ready-made for him. Klopp had already set up the foundations around him, the full-backs, the goalkeeper joined. He was definitely the missing cog. There was a reason why Klopp was caught on a donkey in Blackpool with him, but there was the reason why we were told we couldn't sign him. We were pushing for him that much. Klopp knew how important he was. The fact that FSG spent £75 million on him suggests how much they understood that his signing needed to be made. And yeah, once he joined Liverpool, there was a lot of people who were like, we understand he's good, is he gonna be that good? And he just hit the ground running. Don't think he's ever put a foot wrong since he's put on a red shirt. I know there's the whole thing about he hasn't been dribbled past in X amount of years, and then rival fans were thinking that was a great thing when someone went past him, like it was like they'd won a trophy. No, they've just gone past a player once. He's that good. He is a Rolls Royce. His chant with the Liverpool fans is calm as you like. He makes everything look simple. Now, I understand there's other good centre-backs in world football. Let's look over the last 10 years. I'd probably put Sergio Ramos as one of the best centre-backs over the last 10 years. Now, he used to make rash decisions, last-ditch challenges that look good on the eye. He used to throw himself about a bit as well. And for me, it's more because he's not as confident as a centre-back as people like to give him. And, those last-ditch challenges may look good on the eye, but for me that's because they maybe dropped off where they shouldn't have. They're not positionally correct, and they may get the plaudits, but Van Dijk is always in the right position. He very, very rarely makes a last-ditch challenge to get the ball, because he's already read it and he's already in that position. It's as calm as you like. Van Dijk for me is the best centre-back in world football. All your City fans, they all went on last season about Diaz. Diaz is an alright defender, don't get me wrong, but he's nowhere near the level of Van Dijk. Seen him falling on his arse all last season. He looked a shambles for Portugal as well at the Euros, and for me, there's not even a comparison on Van Dijk. And as I say, I understand we signed him as a top player, but he wasn't a superstar. And Liverpool and Klopp made Van Dijk a superstar. Now, number 5 on my list, but the reason he makes my list because when we signed him, I was like, what are we doing? There's got to be better players out there than him. And I'm man enough to admit that, and I'm man enough to admit that I was totally wrong. And number 5 on my list is Mohamed Salah. Now, when we signed him from Roma, I thought, Italy's a dead league. He won't be able to handle the pace of the Premier League. We've seen him for Chelsea in the Premier League, and he was awful. I couldn't have been more wrong about any player, and it's very rare that I would get that so animated over signing a player and then being proved wrong. I may get, I'm not too sure about that, but I was totally sold. I was like, I don't understand why we're signing him. And let's look at his goal record, for instance. So the first season he signed for Liverpool, when everybody was just like, I wasn't the only one, by the way. I know there was loads of Reds out there that were like a bit like, oh god, he scored 44 goals in one season. I can't remember the last time a player hit over 25 goals for Liverpool. He hit 44 goals for Liverpool in his first season, and I know that was a season, a one-off season. Well, I say a one-off season. I knew he wasn't going to hit the dizzy heights of 44 goals again, because players get used to him and understand, obviously, the Liverpool way a bit more. But, everyone was saying do it for X amount of seasons. The season after, he scored 27, which in any other season, without having the previous 44, would have been seen as world class. 22, 31, they're his seasons leading up to this season, goal records. And so far this season, he scored 4 in 4. And, he hit his 100th last week against Leeds. So in 5 seasons, he scored 129 goals for Liverpool. It's just an astonishing record. Now, there's a lot of debate about Liverpool's greatest ever starting 11. Liverpool's greatest ever 11. And there's no debate that Mohamed Salah is probably already there in most people's eyes. Definitely in Premier League era. I understand a lot of older people, older fans may have an affinity for certain wingers, but I very, very highly doubt if Mohamed Salah's not in everybody's top 11. He's just a player that's gone from failing in the Premier League under Chelsea to go into the Italian league to find his feet again. And then he's come to Liverpool, he's hit the ground running, Klopp's set up that team around him, and he's been given the platform to shine and become one of the best wingers in world football. You'd probably say the only right winger in the world that's been better than him is Messi, but that is Lionel Messi. And it's not a bad person to be in second place to, but my most impressive season of Salah's wasn't the 44 goals season, his first one. It was last season. He scored 31 goals last season, 31 goals in all competitions, when we had a depleted Liverpool team. And considering last season was the worst title defence in Premier League history, it wasn't, but it isn't, by the way. I think the fact that he scored 31 goals, he dragged Liverpool to 3rd place on his own. I know a few players like Trent, for instance. The last 10 games of the season was unbelievable. He's shown his quality those last 10 games of the Premier League. But the majority of the league, Salah's dragged 3 points out of Liverpool when they weren't there to be dragged out of. Now, that was my most impressive season of Salah so far. And as I say, it's just a great player to round off this 5 for me. We've got him from Roma. He had a bad first experience in the Premier League. A lot of people, and I know I'm not the only one, but a lot of people were questioning the signing, and he's just grabbed the bull by the horns and absolutely smashed the Premier League over the last 5 years. Now, honourable mentions for me, I cannot leave off Alisson in this list. It was so close to put Alisson in. Again, from Roma. Understandably, again, I knew when we got him it'd be easily slid into the team, but he's gone above and beyond what we all expected. He's going to be our goalkeeper for at least the next 5, 7, 8 years. There's no problem. with our goalkeeping position for now. Another person's obviously Sadio Mane, and you know, I could have made this a 7-man list, as I say, and put the likes of Alisson and Mane in, but I wanted to make it a little bit more of a debate for us. And yeah, I couldn't mention this list again without bringing Mane as an honourable mention. And you know, that's probably about it. You know, your Diogo Jota's maybe too early for him at the moment. And you know, there's the likes of Matip and things as well, but obviously his injuries have cost him, even though he started well this season. But yeah, that's my top 5. If your 5 differs from mine, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you wholeheartedly agree with my 5. Let me know where I'm wrong. I want to have that debate with you all. But yeah, that is it for today's Liverpool video. And if you did like it, as I say, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed for more LFC related content. I've got a few big interviews in the future planned. It's just a case of getting some dates sorted out. But yeah, until next time, take care, Reds.